we can come back at the end of these questions that I wanted to ask you guys about how HIEs can actually perhaps help with some of that information and some collaborations that could be available with HIEs. But I want to make sure I have time to go over the modular certification questions that I was asked to go over. I think probably most of you have seen this slide already, where we've got some different scenarios for public health to receive data. Scenario number one is, I think, what everyone was expecting to happen, where we had a completely certified EHR that was sending information to public health, perhaps being routed through an HIE or some sort of aggregator before it went on to public health, and ultimately into the public health systems that are run for surveillance. Scenario number two is one that we actually saw quite often, especially in syndromic surveillance and electronic lab reporting, where hospitals and eligible professionals actually ended up with separate systems that were actually certified to send that information, that were separate from their completely certified EHR. In the case of a lab, it might be a LIMS system that was certified to do ELR, or in the case of syndromic surveillance, it may have been a ED registration system that was certified to send syndromic surveillance data. And so hospitals, in addition to having their certified EHR products, actually had these separate modularly certified products for some of the public health measures that were sending data in a separate process from their certified EHR. Again, they were either sending them directly to public health or through some sort of aggregator like an HIE, where that HIE was helping with the routing and transport to get the data to public health. And then scenario number three is one that we're seeing more and more, where health information exchanges are actually providing some value-added services along the way. So we've got EHRs and laboratory information systems or syndromic or ED registration systems routing information through an HIE, but the HIE is actually adding some services onto that. And some examples of that that I've seen in the real world are a ED registration system that is sending a meaningful MU-compliant 231 message for syndromic surveillance, but it's not certified. So that message can be routed through an HIE that is actually certified for the reporting of syndromic surveillance before it's passed on to public health, and then that certification that comes from the HIE can actually count towards meaningful use, so that that whole transaction can actually count for the hospital meeting the requirements of meaningful use for syndromic surveillance. Otherwise, if it were not coming out of a certified product, it would not count. So the basic idea here is that at some point along the way, a certified message has to come out of certified technology in order for it to meet meaningful use. So we've got other places where HIEs are taking, say, a 231 message from a LIMS system, because historically, before meaningful use happened, that's how labs always sent information to public health, and it's actually transforming it into a 251 message. So that transformation process, since it's changing it into certified technology, then the HIE actually would require certification in order for that hospital to meet the MU requirement of ELR. We also have some situations where we've got certified products sending certified messages, but without some of the correct vocabulary. They're doing local codes for their lab tests names, for example. And public health is saying they'll only accept the ELR messages with a LOINC code. And the HIEs are actually doing some translation of the vocabularies to LOINC codes. Now that's kind of a unique situation, because if you've got a certified message coming out of a certified product, but it just doesn't have the right vocabulary, and the HIE is only adding the vocabulary so that the public health department will receive it, that actually does not require certification, as long as the product that it's coming out of is MU compliant and it is a 251 message that's compliant coming out of that product. So again, the basic philosophy here is that at some point along the way, you've got to have a certified message that's coming out of certified technology. And I actually came up with some scenarios for you guys to think about. And I don't know, are the voting or the polling buttons working right now? Or can we do a poll?
What we could do is have people use their
raise hand.
Yeah, maybe use their X tool, which is on their text tool, top right-hand corner or left-hand corner, and they could put a mark on, the left if they think it's yes, and on the right if they think it's no. Something like that. We didn't set up a polling question.
Oh, okay. How about raising your hand? Does that work too? That might be easier. So let me just read through the scenario, and then we'll try a raise hand voting. So let's say that Hospital X has a certified EHR product, and they're sending an HL7 251 MU compliant message, but it's from their LIMS product that is not certified, and they're sending this message through the HIE to public health. In order to count for meaningful use, do you think the HIE would require certification? So let's have people maybe raise their hand if they think the HIE would require certification in order for this transaction to count for meaningful use. So how many people think it would require certification? So we've got 3 votes for requiring certification. And you guys are actually all correct. This one actually would require certification. And the reason for that is, remember, the underlying philosophy here is that in order for it to count, a certified message has to be coming out of certified technology. So here, that same 251 message would have to be coming out of the HIE, and the HIE would, in fact, need to be certified. So let's move on to scenario number 2. In scenario 2, the hospital does own certified EHR technology. They're sending their HL7 251 message that's MU compliant out of their LIMS product, and that LIMS product is actually has modular certification for ELR. The message in this case is actually flowing through the HIE, but in this case, the public health department does not actually have the capacity to receive a 251 message because they had been used to receiving a 231 message. So the HIE actually downgrades it to a 231 message so that the PHA can consume the message. So raise your hand here if you think the HIE would require certification. We've got a couple of 2 or 3 votes for yes, and I think it looks like different people might be voting this time. In this case, actually, the HIE would not require certification. We actually have a MU-compliant message coming out of a certified LIMS product. So that is actually what counts us towards meaningful use. The HIE, as it's accepting information on behalf of the public health authority, could actually do anything they want with it before they pass it on, like downgrading in this case, without requiring certification. But because it came out of a certified system in an MU-compliant format, the HIE would not have to be certified, and it's okay for them to downgrade it without certification. nothing about the downgrading process is something that would be certified. We've got a couple of more of these. In this one, the hospital sends an HL7 251 MU compliant message from their modularly certified LIMS product. So it's a MU compliant message coming out of certified technology, but they're using local codes instead of WINC and SNOMED codes for the laboratory test names and laboratory results. The message again is flowing through the HIE, and in this case, the only thing the HIE is doing is taking those local codes and changing them to WINC and SNOMED before it passes the 251 MU compliant message onto public health. So raise your hand here if you think the HIE would require certification. Okay, so in this case, the HIE actually would not require certification because all they're doing is translation of those local codes. It's just, remember that's the piece that I talked about a little earlier. If they're not changing the format from a non-compliant into a compliant message, but they're just changing some of the vocabularies, that functionality would not require certification. And then I think this is our last example. A hospital actually has a certified EHR product, and the laboratory information is actually in their certified EHR product. They don't have a separate LIMS system. So it's a certified system, but they have historically been sending a 231 message to public health before Meaningful Use started, so they actually haven't changed that process yet. The hospital is sending that 231 message through the HIE to public health, and in this case, the HIE is transforming the message into a MU-compliant 251 message. So here we have a non-compliant message coming out of a certified product at the hospital flowing through the HIE that changes it to an MU-compliant 251 message. Raise your hand here if you think the HIE would require certification. Great. I see lots of hands going up here, and that's great. This one is one of the very common ones that we see, and in this case, the HIE would require certification. So that